Good learners understand the value of questions. After all, there is more that we don't know than we do know. By asking questions, you are taking a more active role in the learning process. As well as helping you to learn, questions guide and support your coaches and your teachers by providing them with feedback. Questions show that you are curious and interested in what they are explaining. Questions can also provide them with clues as to what and how you are thinking, because thinking is driven by questions, not by answers. Asking questions also helps to develop the other learning power skills. Questions help to keep you organized. Asking a question encourages you to listen better. When you ask a question, you're invested in discovering what the answer might be. You're also more likely to get involved in the subsequent discussions. Leaders use questions to encourage greater collaboration. Questions also have an important role to play when we're thinking critically. Questions can also help to guide us when we're reflecting on what we have just done. In a nutshell, if you're not asking questions, then you're not fully engaged in your learning. You're dipping your toe in rather than taking a plunge. So how can we get into the habit of asking questions? And when we do this, how can we ask better questions? Here are 10 terrific tips for you to try. Tip 1. Ask your friends questions about their lives inside and outside of school. Asking questions can help bond your friendships. They show your friends that you are interested in them. Questions enable you to find out what you have in common and help you to discover what makes your friends so unique and special. When talking with your friends, it's often good to ask open-ended questions rather than closed questions, as they lead to deeper and more engaging conversations. Look at these examples of closed questions. Did you have a good weekend? Did you like living in Australia? Did you enjoy your birthday? Is your brother nice to you? All of these are closed questions because the answer will be both short and limited. Let's rewrite them as open-ended questions. What did you get up to over the weekend? How was it living in Australia? What was the best thing about your birthday? What's your brother like at home? Open-ended questions result in a broader, more personal response. Tip 2. When asking questions, use a range of different question starters. Questions help us to check our understanding, they deepen our knowledge, and can steer our thinking in new directions. They are as important to learners as tools are to craftsmen. Just like how a good craftsman is able to use a variety of tools, a good learner is able to generate a wide variety of different question types. To learn to do this, you will need to practice using a range of different question starters. A question matrix can support you with this. Let's pretend that you're learning about grizzly bears and you want to generate questions about this topic. A dice matrix will ensure you come up with both varied and interesting questions. The matrix is full of different question starters. You roll 2 dice and let's pretend you got a 6 and a 2. This intersects on the how does starter, and you now need to take on the challenge of beginning your question with this. Here's a second type of matrix. You begin by choosing one starter from the vertical axis. Then you move to the horizontal axis and choose the follow-up word. The challenge is to use these 2 words to form a question. Each question you ask should use a different combination of starters. You simply drop in the stimulus and begin generating your questions. Tip 3. When stuck, ask specific questions that make it clear what you are stuck with. We all get stuck. It is, after all, a sign that you're learning something new. But good learners are better at unsticking themselves. They might reread the question. They might look around the classroom to see if any of the displays will help them. They might look back in their notes to see if they've done something like it before. They might check what other students are doing. And of course, often they'll ask for help. When seeking help, good learners ask questions rather than giving general statements. Instead of saying, "I don't get it," they ask a question that makes it clear exactly what they don't get. "Can you tell me what the word product means, miss?" Instead of saying, "I don't know what to write," they explain exactly what they are struggling to write. "Can you think of a good starting line for me to use in my story?" Instead of saying, "I don't know how to do this," they'll be clear about what they can't do. "Can you show me how to add music to my presentation?" Instead of saying, "I can't do this," they look for a solution to the problem they are facing. "Can I use a calculator to help me on this question?" So the next time you're stuck with something and have to ask for help, ask specific questions so that your teachers and coaches know exactly what they need to help you with. Tip 4. Generate what-if questions to encourage something to be thought about in a new way. What-if questions help unlock our creativity and imagination. They take away our current assumptions, enabling us to see things that we cannot currently see. They encourage us to explore possibilities and can change our mindset in the way we define and approach problems. What if schools never closed? This might change the way we think about schools. What if the world only had one language? This might change the way we think about communication. What if every day had 23 hours instead of 24? This might help us reflect on our priorities. What if we could un-invent something? This might help us to imagine a different world. Tip 5. Challenge things that you are told but don't agree with by asking questions. Often people challenge things they disagree with by making statements. "That's not true. What a load of rubbish. I don't believe that at all. I don't understand how you can think that way." Unfortunately, statements can make it personal. Statements suggest that they are wrong and you are right. Statements can sound argumentative. When challenging others, avoid seeing it as an argument that you are trying to win, and instead reframe it as an opportunity to exchange information. Perhaps the other person has some information that might change your point of view, or perhaps they are unaware of an insight that you have that might change their point of view. By using questions instead of statements, you are inviting the other person to explain what they think in more detail or with more clarity. If they cannot do this, then your question might have helped them to realize that their point of view lacks evidence, is misguided, or simply wrong. Some useful questions to use when you challenge others are: why do you think this? How do you know that's true? What evidence is there that supports this? Can you give me an example of this? Have you thought about it in a different way? Tip 6. Get quieter students involved by asking them what they think. When working collaboratively, it's important to get the ideas and opinions of everyone in your group. It not only keeps people engaged and motivated, but someone in your team might have a gem of an idea that they simply haven't shared. It's important for the more talkative members of the group to realize when they are dominating the discussion. When this happens, they need to learn to stop and encourage the quieter members of the group to share what they think. Asking them a question is a great way to get them involved. What do you think, James? How do you feel we should do it, Jenny? Kim, you're always full of great ideas. What do you think we should do? Tip 7. Generate follow-up questions to a starting question. The ability to ask follow-up questions is an important skill to have. For a start, it allows you to explore topics in more depth. And secondly, it helps you to have longer and more engaging conversations. To be good at asking follow-up questions, you need to be a good listener. A nice way to look at it is to see conversations and discussions as a game of ping pong. Each shot you will hit will be a question. Practice with your friends. After they have told you something, respond with a follow-up question. How long can you keep the rally going for? How many questions can you generate? Tip 8. Know when to use open-ended questions and when to use closed questions. Open-ended questions are often touted as being better than closed questions. And whilst there are many situations when this is true, sometimes it can be an advantage to ask a closed question. Open-ended questions are divergent, meaning that there are many, sometimes infinite, possible answers to the question. Closed questions are convergent, meaning there is a limited number of expected responses. Open-ended questions make you think deeply. Closed questions encourage you to think quickly. Open-ended questions lead to unpredictable responses, whilst closed questions lead to predictable responses. From this description, it does seem that open-ended questions are the champions, and yes, in many circumstances, they are the best type of question to ask. For example, your conversations will be richer when you ask open-ended questions. Look at talk show hosts. Which of these makes the better question to ask? Did you enjoy making your new movie? What is your new movie about? Clearly, the second question will result in a more detailed and hopefully more interesting response. But closed questions have their place too. A closed question is good when you are short of time. For example, it's your first day of school and you're late. Is room 11 this way? We'll get a quicker response than, how do I get to room 11? When designing questionnaires or gathering data, it's important to limit the range of responses you get so the answers can be grouped and graphed. When establishing facts, lawyers will often ask closed questions in court. Instead of asking, what did you do on January the 11th? They'll establish the facts by asking, were you at the scene of the crime at 9 p.m. on January the 11th? So when asking questions, think about the type of question you need to ask in order to get the type of response you desire. Should you be asking an open-ended question or a closed question? Tip 9. Ask questions during discussions to help expand the topic being discussed. To expand a discussion, it's important to ask open-ended rather than closed questions. For example, if you are discussing space exploration, instead of asking, how long did it take Neil Armstrong to get to the moon? How did Apollo 11 get to the moon will lead to a far more interesting and detailed discussion. Tip 10. Get to the root of problems by asking 5 whys. Sometimes problems that are quickly solved reoccur because we haven't solved the issue that lies at the root of the problem. Asking 5 whys is a great way of drilling down to the cause of the problem. For example, let's pretend I'm always late for school. Let's ask 5 whys and see if we can get to the root of this problem. Why? Because traffic is really bad. Why? Because we always hit the rush hour. Why? Because we leave for school too late. Why? Because Dad is always waiting for me to get ready. Why? Because it takes me a while to get my bag packed for school in the morning. So the solution is to get my bag ready for school before I go to bed, not when I wake up in the morning. So it's now down to you to use these 10 terrific tips to improve your questioning skills. As Albert Einstein said, the important thing is to never stop questioning.